What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Svet. I am here again with my buddy and rock mentor, Diesel 1856. We are going over our arc from last weekend, where we just got into this new kingdom in 1846, and we played a new opponent, and we've got some strategy that we've been working on. So we're going to go a lot into that. For those of you guys that have not been to my channel, like I said, I am Svet. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like Rise of Kingdoms, if you like Ark of Osiris videos where we talk about our strategy, what players are doing, and how to win the game. Like I said, don't forget to like and subscribe. So here in the beginning of the video, what I'm kind of doing is just going over my commanders. We just migrated to a new kingdom, so I can't use all my equipment on all of my commanders. So what I do before the match is make sure that all the right commanders that I can use in Ark have the right equipment on them. Diesel, I know you have to do the same thing, right? Because you've got all the same situation as me, yeah?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more fortunate in that I have a lot of the older commanders maxed, so I keep them with the gear, but I do have to take off the stuff on Guan and make sure that's redistributed appropriately.
Right. And so if any of you guys have migrated to a newer kingdom and you started in an older kingdom, you're familiar with this, but there's quite a few commanders that have come out this year specifically that you can't use, that you have to be in a kingdom that's 310 days old to use. So we migrated to a new one, and we can't use all of some of our OP commanders that we have, like Juan, like Leo, like Ramesses, some of the other new ones that we use for garrisons that you have, like Theo, YSS, some of these other newer commanders. So right now we're getting all of our equipment on our commanders that we can use in Ark. We're popping our buffs. We use 50% buffs for Ark. We use the 10% attack or defense rune. We're kind of just getting ready to go into the match here. I guess to start off, we should talk about what our general strategy is, and kind of who comes up with it and stuff like that, which you know more about than me, Diesel.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a lot of different misconceptions about the start of the Ark of Osiris, and a lot of the things that people think that, hey, you have to be the strongest player to be meaningful or to help your team. It's not necessarily that case. You have to be able to execute to the objective that the group sets, and make sure that you're effectively working with your team to take care and defend the necessary objectives, because when everything is all said and done, it comes down to points. And when you look at how points are broken down, you have provision score, you have occupation score, you have Ark of Osiris score, and you have kill score, but the kill score is specific to the individual player as opposed to the alliance. So when you start the match, a lot of the times you'll see players send like a T1 march, and they'll capture the initial outpost and then carry on to the obelisk. That's a strategy to get into that structure faster, to get your players ported up to the field so they can move their armies more effectively. And you'll see that early on in the match here.
Yep, exactly. And I guess it's safe to say that we focus more on the structure game than the Ark game. We don't spend necessarily too much energy on the Ark. Like, we definitely have a team that's dedicated to the middle and they're trying to get the Ark, but we play more of a structure game throughout Ark of Osiris. We believe that, if you can take over the field and hold the structures around the Ark, that you overall will get that points per minute score and win the game at the end of the day. That's definitely what you'll see reflected in this video today. I don't think we got a single Ark in this match, did we?
No, we lost all of them. We really tried to contest, I think, the second and third one, but what we saw our opponents do is really gather in the middle, and I think that their strategy of really emphasizing the Ark was good. However, they made some critical mistakes with losing their desert altar that gave us that points per minute advantage that you were speaking about.
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, everybody plays a little bit differently. I know some alliances and some teams really play that Ark game because it progresses throughout the match. So the first Ark that is captured is not worth as much as the last Ark that is captured. There's a time factor that you kind of have to account for. And honestly, it's just not how we play the game. So we like to take structures. We like to organize around taking those structures to really just win steadily throughout the match rather than having any kind of last minute hurrah that actually wins us the game. To wind back, what you guys just saw probably about a minute ago on the screen was I was setting kind of second and third level commanders, if you're not a rally lead or a garrison commander, you don't necessarily want to fill rallies or structures with commanders that you'd rather have fighting in the field, or anything else. In a worst case scenario, if you do become a rally leader or randomly become a garrison person midway through the match because someone couldn't get there, you don't want to have your best commanders, whether they be field, rally, or garrison, in the wrong place at the wrong time. So what I was doing there was using the different commander presets to kind of set up, okay, I want, these commanders that don't really mean anything to me. These are my archer commanders. I'm going to fill rallies with archers with this commander pair rather than using my Ramesses YSG or Ramesses El Cid or whatever to fill a rally when it doesn't really do anything unless I'm the rally lead. Do you do the same thing, or how do you set yourself up?
Yeah, I do absolutely the same thing. So generally what I do is I use my presets for barbarians in terms of commanders because I have them spec for mobility. And then I just will change the troop type.
See, that's smart. I don't do that, so that they're actually getting there a little bit faster regardless of the troop
That's
type.
exactly. So, and really the idea with that, you don't want it to be specific to, a Belisarius for cav or, a eulogy for infantry, because your troop type, your commander that you have doesn't influence the damage or anything like that, the output of the rally. That's all going to be based on the rally commander statistics.
Okay, yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. What I was actually doing was setting archer commanders to archers rather than just using my mobility commanders to do that. So maybe that's something I'll do next time to get around the map a little bit faster too.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, a lot of these things are just adding or reducing, I should say, your march time by a few seconds here, a few seconds there. But those few seconds could be very critical in terms of reinforcing a structure, reinforcing a rally.
They definitely can, for sure. I mean, there's been how many times we played Ark where, the difference of keeping or losing a structure was like a couple seconds of somebody getting in there or not, right?
Absolutely. And we'll see a few examples of that here today. One thing that you'll see here in just a minute is me moving the tier 1 troops throughout the map. So one thing that a lot of people have started to implement now from a strategic perspective with their tier 1 troops and trying to get your structures quicker is the windswept gear. So when you go through and you look at what you want to build, if you build the 4 pieces of windswept gear, you're going to get a significant march speed bonus, not only from the individual pieces itself, but also the collection bonus, the set bonus. So using a combination of mobility commanders, so like a Cow Moto, a Cow Khan, something like that, the tier 1 troops, so you have the full movement speed, and also the windswept gear is kind of that utopian combination that's going to get you there the fastest possible in the game.
For sure, for sure. All right, so the match is kind of starting to get going here. We ported in, I don't know, a minute or so ago, so we're probably about a minute, maybe less away from actually starting the match. I'm kind of just scrolling throughout the map here to see, okay, I'm making sure we've got, I don't know where I am right there, but just making sure that we've got all of our players in. I am kind of going over to the enemy side to see if they had all 30 of their players show up or whatnot. And the countdown is kind of going down here, and we are just waiting to get our marches out. Diesel's up front. I think Laguna was also up front here as well. So you'll see both of those people send out T1 marches to take over our obelisk. We actually do have a little bit of an issue in the beginning of this match with our bottom team, with their obelisk. And so there we go. The match has started. We've got rallies going on obelisks. In the beginning, we launched both 2 on ours and then 2 on the enemy obelisk as well. But we don't actually attack the enemy obelisk. It's actually just kind of a transport rally that we use to take another structure along the way.
Yeah, and we're going through and testing these different strategies and seeing, what works, what doesn't work. I think it's good to note that there's not one set strategy for Ark of Osiris. Different alliances are successful using different strategies. This is just what works for us and what we're trying, and just trying to provide a little bit of insight to you guys into what may help with your team and strategic advances as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I mean, a lot of teams, they focus only on the arc and they still win matches, right? We really don't. We focus on structures and we still win matches. So everybody does have a different strategy and preference of how they play the game. And, I guess it'll be fun to kind of watch some of these these playoffs come to an end. I mean, we've got what, 3 weeks left of Osiris League.
Yeah, it's really good, and there's been some really it's crazy to see how the different realms kind of play, and the differences and similarities and strategies. So it's good kind of moving from the Anubis realm to the Horus realm. I think I got those right.
That is right. Yeah. We will make a whole other video on why we migrated and where we came from. Like I said, we're in 1846 now, and Watch It Burn is our alliance. We will make a whole entire other video on why we moved, what the motivation was, what the setup was in our old kingdom, what the setup is in our new kingdom, etc. So I'll go ahead and link that in the video when we do actually make that video. But we made a big move. We decided to get out of Dodge, and we are in a new place now. So far, so good. We have our first KVK coming up in probably about a month, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's the whole reason why we have to switch equipment around and all that stuff. We had all these commanders from an old school kingdom, and now we're in a new school kingdom. I think the cutoff is what, 1800 for new kingdoms?
Something like that, yeah. 1800 roughly, and something to just speak to a point that you made previously in terms of accessing commanders. One thing that we found out in this whole process is you can still utilize your old commanders in Ark of Osiris and some of the events like Ian's Ballad and Soroli Crisis, stuff like that. So it's not like all your commanders are completely lost and unaccessible, stuff like that. It's going to be more so your combat on the field, KVK fighting, stuff like that, where you're not able to utilize the commanders that are the Attila Takedas, the Guan Leos, and so on and so forth. And one thing that I think is unique is it doesn't matter how far after. So it doesn't matter if it's the Zenobia or Chandragupta or William. It's the 310-day cutoff. So anytime you're going KVK season 3, you're going to hit that 310-day mark, and that's going to allow you to utilize any commander that's been created in Rise of Kingdom.
Yep, for sure. All right, so the match is kind of getting going here. Like I said, we had some issues here with our bottom team in the obelisk. I don't know what they did, but they somehow snuck to our bottom obelisk and took it in the beginning. Really, it's not the end of the world, but it did delay us. One, getting the points. It took at least 30 seconds off of us getting those points per minute from that bottom obelisk. It also delayed our porting a little bit on that bottom obelisk as well. Did they launch a T1 rally, or do you know how they got down there so fast?
I think they launched a rally, broke it, and they had somebody with T1 that marched, because it was only one. It was only one march, and it was, I think, partial because it melted pretty quickly.
Got it. Because yeah, Diesel and I are both on the top team. I guess to talk about that a little bit more, we separate ourselves into 4 different teams. One's based on bottom, top, and then we separate even further from there. So we have a top 1, a top 2, a bottom 1, and a bottom 2. And each player in each team kind of has individual responsibilities, whether it's rally lead, garrison lead, field fighter. We even have some farming roles that go out. We're really trying to focus on getting a little bit more provisioning score. God forbid, but sometimes that might make the difference in a match. But so yeah, we're divided into 4 teams, and everybody's got a very, very specific job. Our leaders, Diesel's one of them that puts it together. The detail in this planning is absolutely out of control, but everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do for the entire 60-minute battle. So it's kind of nice when you're a player, you know exactly what to do the whole time.
Yeah, exactly, and having the detail-oriented approach, making sure you're going through stuff with a fine-tooth comb, it allows you to kind of anticipate things before they happen. You know who's defending a structure, you know who's supposed to be fighting where, where rallies are going to be going, and where people are going to be emphasizing the pressure. So definitely good to have that planning in advance, and make sure that you provide visual representations for your team, so it's a lot easier to understand and comprehend.
Right. And so the fight has definitely started, as you guys can see in the top right of the screen. I've got the rally up now, but so we've got our whole side of the map. They have their whole side of the map. There are a couple flashing structures, one on the bottom. We were just having a good field fight at I guess that's their desert altar. On the top side, which I'm going to go check out in a second. My responsibility in this match was to put a lot of pressure on the Shrine of Life. I was supposed to rally the Shrine of Life continuously, essentially. Whether it was just a distraction or whether we actually took it and got some points per minute from that, that was my job throughout the match. But we're starting to get going here. I've got a rally going. Looks like Oreo's attacking the Desert Altar. And one of the teams that is set up on the top, so T2, their job is to not only hold our Shrine of War, I believe it is, but they're also supposed to group up just north of the Shrine of War and then escort these rallies to the enemy's Desert Altar so that we can have a huge field support around this rally and actually take their Desert Altar. One of our big strategies here is really focusing on that structure on the top team, at least, so that when we get that and we can hold that, it disrupts their points per minute, which you get a lot of points per minute for the Desert Altar. And we're really, really close to their home base. So it's really intrusive, puts a ton of pressure on them, makes it really, really difficult for them to operate the game well because we're so in their face when we take that structure.
Absolutely. And it gives you such a launching point from a mobility perspective to either go towards their obelisk, go towards the middle. It really puts a wrench in their chain and makes them think, and generally draws a lot of attention from them because, like you said, the proximity to their obelisk.
Right. And so I've got my Attila Takeda going over to the Shrine of Life. On the enemy side, they really did a good job of defending this throughout the beginning of the match. At a certain point, I think that they were really struggling with the Desert Altar because we will eventually take this Desert Altar, and their defense of the Shrine of Life just kind of crumbles. But right now, I've got my rally going at the Shrine of Life. We've got another rally going at the Desert Altar, and we have our full, what we call the escort force or the escort team, marching with this rally to take their Desert Altar. So we'll see what happens here.
And I think that a lot of teams are starting to utilize this strategy of grouping up and going to the Desert Altar, gaining a large presence there, and then kind of doing the reach around from the backside, from like the enemy's Desert Altar or Shrine of War, depending on kind of what side you're at and positioning and whatnot. But I definitely have seen that strategy utilized more often. And I think really what we saw in this match is that there was a lot of that kind of natural attrition of having those like 50 million or 60 million T5 players and they just run out of troops. And, in all honesty, I don't know if I would recommend anybody healing in like a match like this using speed ups that should be used in like either Osiris League in a big match or in KVK. But I think that what we see towards the end of the match is just kind of that, little just higher average power that we experienced with the matchmaking and having a little bit more longevity in our troops.
Yep, for sure. There's actually a few rallies here where we see them take, swarming an Attila Takeda is never fun. It has to be done. Like we all know that we have to do it to take it down. But if you have to do it too many times in a match, which you'll see this repeatedly on their Shrine of Life, repeatedly on their Desert Altar, we're going to hit them with Attila Takedas, and they have to swarm it down. But if you have to do too many in a match and your depth of troops in your alliance isn't enough, eventually you just run out of gas. Like Diesel said, it's debatable whether or not this is worth healing, unless it's an Ark of Osiris League type thing. So you'll start to see them kind of run out of gas because they're swarming our Attila Takedas. A Ramesses YSG is pretty brutal in terms of having to have injured units, severely wounded units that you have to heal. So we're here at the Desert Altar right now, and just a crazy ass battles going on. Our rally just went down, but we still have that huge field presence that came from the escort team, which is great because now they're still having to deal with us. We're still fighting. We're still putting pressure on the structure. I don't know if this is one of the rounds where we take it or not, but see, I just scrolled by. They're taking troops from the Shrine of Life over to the Desert Altar because that structure is huge. You do not want to lose that. And so now they're losing focus on the Shrine of Life, where I'm going to go ahead and launch another rally, or at least I try, where Nathus went ahead and did it, and so we joined him. He was archers. But yeah, so you're starting to kind of see where the Desert Altar feels pressure, the enemy, or even ourselves. If we started to feel pressure at that close structure to us, we would immediately respond to that structure. And it's what you're seeing kind of right here.
Yep. And I believe that you'll see the desert altar go down right here. Now, what you'll notice, and this is something that Svet mentioned, is that those troops that were coming from the Shrine of Life, they're walking right by, and they're actually, you know, it looks like they're re-coordinated to go to the center as opposed to reinforcing the structure. And I think that that's, you know, from like a points per minute perspective, that's a critical mistake. In the Ark, it's not necessarily how many points you get, but how many points you're stopping your opponent from getting. So delaying them from capturing a structure or making a gap in their occupation is a critical component to victory. Not only just having the brute force and ability to own the center, but being able to occupation is automatically win the game, making sure that they're not able to occupy the buildings for extended periods of time. And one thing that we notice is that the occupation time, the time it takes to occupy a structure, those 3 minutes or you know, the couple minute periods that it takes, it's very important for you to get reinforcements there, reinforce the structures. And you're going to see multiple opportunities here where we take the structure and it's almost falling, but we're able to get troops there at the last second, and then it successfully occupies for us, so we start accumulating those points.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. It's not necessarily about you know, your points, whether it's a player or as an alliance, but point disruption is such a huge part of Ark of Osiris that a lot of people don't really say it like that. But at the end of the day, I pull a little sneak attack later in the match and take their obelisk, and that just destroys their points per minute. Regardless, they capture every single arc here, every single arc in the game they get, but our points per minute was just so much higher throughout the 60. It's a 60-minute match, right? So our points per minute is why we won the game. We didn't get a single arc. They got every single one, but we disrupt them the entire game. They never disrupt our side ever. I think at the end, we might lose our Shrine of War for a couple minutes, but they don't really disrupt our points too much other than that obelisk and then our Shrine of War, I think, at the end. But that's really what it comes down to. And so like Diesel just said, we just took their desert altar. So we've got it right now. I don't think we have a proper garrison commander at the moment, but let's see. We've got people marching up there. And yeah, so I think this one, they do get back here pretty quickly. That was a fierce fight for that first desert altar take. And yeah, we're just kind of all marching back up. I think we've got a rally going on their Shrine of Life on our side. Again, as you can tell from my screen, I don't even really pay too much attention to the arc. It's not my responsibility. Like I said, everybody gets a very specific role, and we're following it. And that's kind of what makes our alliance so strong, is we're given instructions, we follow it to a T, and we're able to win some matches that way. And so this is what I was talking about too. This Ramesses YSG, it's on the Shrine of Life. I mean, it's getting swarmed and it's going down quick, but it's inflicting a ton of damage on the troops that are surrounding it. So that's hurting them.
One strategy that you'll see here from Svet, that or Nathers, whoever's running the rally there, but both of them do it equally. Don't cancel your rally when it's low in Ark of Osiris. You don't want to spend the time having your troops march back and, you know, having a low amount of troops. Let the rally die. Let those troops come back quickly so you can reutilize that march.
Yep, for sure. There is an exception, actually, that I get to later in this match. I launch a Ramesses and it doesn't get filled, and I get field swarmed, and I have to cancel it. So there's an exception. If you're not at the structure yet and you're already half health, sometimes it makes more sense to fight in the field rather than letting it go all the way and just hit the structure as, you know, a 30% kind of power thing. So let's see. So right now we're losing, right? So we're down by 500 points. Make that 7-ish hundred points. We've got 41 minutes left in the match. At this point on my screen, Diesel and I actually meet up. I realized that there's a rally incoming. Diesel's already on the way to our Shrine of War to help out a little bit. But I figure here my Guan Leo's not really going to help too much at the Desert Altar. We're probably going to go down. We're going to have to retake it. But we do have a rally incoming on our Shrine of War. So let's go ahead and just take this thing down real quick. That way we can focus back on offense rather than having to focus on defense. So that's what we're doing here. Diesel brings 3 marches. I've got 1. And we just swarm this rally all the way down real quick.
Now, one of the key points here, and this is going to be just an overall strategy for Rock. It doesn't matter whether it's an Ark of Osiris and KVK and your home kingdom Civil War, you know, anything like that. Anytime you're going to swarm a rally and it's like hitting a flag or hitting a pass or hitting a city or, you know, whatever the situation may be, let that rally hit before you swarm. I'm not saying it's bad to swarm rallies. I do it all the time. I think that it's a necessary tactic. You know, Attila Takeda is definitely debatable in that regard, though. However, whenever you do it, I think a big mistake that I see a lot of players do is out in the open, you know, don't let it hit the structure first. You want it to hit the structure so the structure tanks, because the structure is going to be able to hold 1 million troops, and it's going to take a better ratio, a better, you know, trade with that rally. And then your additional marches swarming it are going to take a minimalized damage approach, damage amount, excuse me, and you'll be able to maximize the damage with that approach. So definitely wait for the rally to hit first before you initiate your swarm.
It's funny you say that. My Attila Takeda just got to the Shrine of Life, and maybe 4 or 5 marches hit it before it even hit the structure up here. Which, again, they're going to take it down real quick, and it's going to look really good, but all those marches are going to be at half or less by the time it goes down.
Exactly. And when you look at like the long game, you know, this is happening in minute 38, you know, about 39, excuse me, we're at 38:57. You know, that's not going to bode well when it's coming into the 20 minutes. And it's like, okay, well, we still have this same pressure applied on their Desert Altar. And it's, you know, they're looking to kind of dig deep to be able to take it back.
Yeah, but so you guys can see on the screen here, Nathus was also responsible for rallying the Shrine of Life. And so him and I are doing a really good job of literally back to back. My Attila Takeda goes down, he's hitting it with a Ramesses YSG, and vice versa. When his rally goes down, I'm rallying it right away with my Attila Takeda. Again, it's not really our strategy to take the Shrine of Life here. Our primary structure to take on the top is the Desert Altar. But if we can keep them thinking that the Shrine of Life is important, we're going to do that. And we'll eventually take it because they just can't handle it anymore. But our goal is not really to take it in the beginning. We're just going to keep them busy. We're going to focus on the structure that's closer to the Ark and closer to their cities while they deal with the Shrine of Life onslaught.
Yep, and the multi-front mentality here, kind of like all the other stuff, it's really heavily utilized now by a lot of top-tier teams. In Ark, you got to have people with that kind of misdirection sense where they don't know, are you going this way, are you going that way? And to Svet's point, you know, whenever we are continually sending rallies at that Shrine of Life, you know, we always want to take it. You know, the objective is to always take it. However, it's when that taking is, you know, when that execution is actually taking place. A lot of the times, you know, you're kind of softening it up, and the people that are defending it just are losing that battle of attrition. You know, they're going to end up falling out. And, you know, kind of what you'll see is the differentiation between the Attila Takeda to the Ramesses YSG. It really, you know, catches them in a place where they, you know, they're not sure what to do. And we get the highly advantageous trade with one of the commander pairings that they put in there. So I think that really it's you want to make sure that you keep up the pressure. You want to make sure that you are filling the rallies and making sure that you're highly coordinated with your rallies. So like making sure they're going out at the same time, as opposed to one over here, letting them go and defend one place and then one over there, and then they're defending another place. Sending them out at the same time, making them defend both places at the same time is going to yield a better result.
Right. Which, of course, another thing we have to mention is, strategy is one thing, but once we get in the game, I mean, I know you guys can't hear the Discord right now, but we have 30 people all talking at the same time. I mean, it's chaotic. It's really hard to accomplish when we're in there, but that's why the pre-planning, and I'm not kidding, we get, I don't know, 1,000-word descriptions on what we're supposed to do in a match. And that's why it's so important up front, because in theory, it sounds great and it sounds easy to do, but the reality is when it's all going down in the match, it's really not that easy to pull up, which is why having such a solid leadership team is so important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And really, it's I think that a lot of teams are moving towards the quality players as opposed to the quantity of power. So as opposed to hey, I just want a bunch of 110 million power players that do whatever they want. It's hey, I'll take a 75 million power player that follows the rules, does what we're looking for him to do, and can kind of play nice in the sandbox, work as a team. And I think that that's really like what the ideal rock player is now. Somebody who's going to be active, participate in the fights. And really it's great that we have kind of the community that we do, not just in 846, but I think, overall in the kind of the broader rock community. There's a lot of groups out there that, really promote a positive environment. So it's great to see.
For sure, for sure. All right, let's see what's going on here. So this is the Desert Altar. It looks like we've got a decent hold on it. Who's garrisoning in there right now? We have a YSS in there?
In all honesty, I can't even. Yeah, YSS Theo.
Okay, yeah. So we've got a pretty good garrison going on in there. I pop over to the Ark for a second, and there's nothing going on. But we do have their Desert Altar. I just went up to their Shrine of Life for a minute, and they had a ton of troops surrounding it. But as you can see, they were kind of pulling those marches down to the Desert Altar, worried that they're going to lose that structure again. I kind of noticed that. I've got my marches out in a bad spot right now. So I sent that Aethelflaed out to kind of counter that Attila Takeda that was coming on our Shrine of War. Wasn't really necessary, and now I'm kind of waiting until I can launch this rally that I really needed to launch a while ago. This one's actually not going to go that well. It's going to work out in the long run, but I don't think this rally even makes it there. I think this is the one that gets swarmed in the field, and I do have to cancel it. But yeah, again, we're just continuing the onslaught of hit the Shrine of Life. Priority is the Desert Altar right now. We are holding the Desert Altar. We've got a good garrison in there. And I guess we'll check in on that sometime soon. I think this is where I hop in your rally. Nope, I'm in Seeker.
I think the only thing I launched was counter rallies this time. I wasn't on any offensive rallies.
You were garrison, right, in the Obelisk?
Yeah, I was garrisoning stuff. I eventually moved, I think, over to the Shrine of War when somebody had to refresh our troops. But yeah, for majority of the time, I was garrisoning the Obelisk.
And yeah, so this one, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say one thing that you want to make sure that you do is leave troops, leave enough troops behind to make sure that you're filling rallies. So, in a sense of like, don't go out and do field marches with 5 marches. So whenever when I was explaining before how Ark of Osiris accumulates points or how it looks at points, the score that you get for killing opponents. So like if you swarm a rally or swarm a player's march or swarm a city. You get those points individually, but it doesn't help your team. So making sure that you keep enough marches back to join the rallies and join the flags is going to be your more team-oriented approach as opposed to the more individualistic approach of doing the field fighting.
Yep, for sure. The only key component there, I guess, is just make sure you get about 10,000. Which I know back in the day when I first started playing and I was first playing Ark, that was kind of a struggle, but I haven't had an issue with that. I don't think any of our teammates have had an issue with that in a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely one of those situations where, people are hitting that mark a lot easier now because of kind of the higher power bracket that we're in. It's not, it's not T4s versus T5s. It's everybody has T5s here.
True. All right, and so I know you guys have noticed I'm in the rally screen a lot during the game, because part of my job is to launch rallies, another part of it is to fill rallies, and I'm also supposed to be defending a structure or filling a structure. I'm not garrisoning one, but of course, you can see a lot of what's going on in the match by just looking at the rally screen. So I spent a lot of time in there. Let's see what we got here. I'm filling archers. Filling Cav into your rally here. I think this was a counter rally you did.
This is a counter rally.
Yep, looks like on the Ramesses.
Yep. Old Faithful.
And so I don't know if you that or not, but you can see on the map in the top right as well, we actually have 2 of their outposts right now too.
Yeah, and so you guys can see the point differential. We're still down by that roughly 800 points. You'll see that changing here as we get past that halfway marker.
Yep, and I mean every time they get an arc, they're taking the lead, but then we're catching back up and taking the lead again with the points per minute. At a certain point here, the points per minute wins. But they are taking the lead every now and then when they capture an arc. As you can see, we're kind of slowly but surely closing this gap points per minute wise. Is this the Desert Altar? Oh, that's ours getting hit. All right, so this is the one that I cancel actually. And I don't know why they did this. I had a rally going to their Shrine of Life, and these players in the field on the enemy team decided that swarming my rally was a better idea than swarming the structure that they were down there to get in the first place. Anyways, I caught on, I canceled my rally, and then we just fought in the field, which was fine anyways because it was an archer rally and everybody's got YSG in there. When your rally's getting hit as it's walking by, it's not firing off any skills. So you break the rally, I'm hitting them in the field, and now I'm getting that YSG AoE effect, which is lethal for them. Again, they marched all these troops down here to take the structure, and they don't do it. Unsure why, not sure what happened here, but you'll see right here over the next few minutes that we just fight in the field for a minute. They have a rally arrive, we take down the rally, and then that's it for this assault on this sky altar.
Yeah. And you mentioned just a really critical mistake that they made in the sense that, they didn't focus on the structure. They're focused. They can come and they have a clear field dominance. If they would have just kept swarming down that structure, I think that they would have had a lot more success, been able to hold it, and it would have made it a lot more difficult for us to kind of maneuver in that situation. We definitely didn't have the field presence there to take it back, so we would have had to rally it. So, yeah, definitely one of those situations that you kind of, whew.
Yeah, seriously, because they clearly have more troops here, and they take out my Ramesses real quick, and they take out most of us, but we do a lot of damage first, and then our structure's still 100% health here, so I don't really know what they were going for, and I was just able to cancel my Archer rally and then launch my Attila Takeda at the Shrine of Life anyway. So somebody was probably not happy about this on the leadership team in Discord, but yeah, there's another point in the match that we were saying, like, why weren't they filling the structure? I don't know if that was the early bout at the Desert Altar or not, but it may be one coming up as well. I notice there's a battle going on over there right now. Let's see. And so here comes that rally. At this point, we've dealt with most of their field marches. This rally is going to hit. It wasn't filled either. As you can see, the YSS just tears into that Attila Takeda right off the rip. YSS is a really, really good commander to deal with Attila Takeda. Attila Takeda is still amazing by all means, but if you don't have a filled rally and you're going against a YSS, it's not going to be fun, regardless of what commanders you have. And so, yeah, this is just getting ripped up by the YSS, and now we're able to swarm because they didn't kill everybody in the field. They still have field marches out there not hitting the structure. So definitely an oversight on their part there, and we're able to keep that structure and then put some pressure on their Shrine of Life as well. There goes my rally again. And so, yeah, that worked out well for us. They just you know, I don't know if there was confusion on what was going on, but it worked out well for us in the long run. And so right now we've got that the desert altar's not even blinking. I'm not. Hopefully, I go over there in a second on the screen, but they're not even hitting that right now. And yeah, I'm gonna go over there right now. So nothing's going on.
This is one of those situations where, you know, when we take the desert altar, when you're able to, you know, have some offensive capability, it provides you with options. You know, it's not like, you know, you're married to one strategy or one course of action. Right now, we're seeing kind of a positive result because we have troops in a forward position, and we're able to pivot from either you know, their arc or the arc or you know, their cities and obelisk structure.
Yep, and then so right here we defended that rally. The field is cleared. I'm going to send looks like a little bit, a couple 100,000 reinforcements to that structure, just to make sure. I had my Guan over there, and again, like I mentioned in the beginning, you don't. So Guan Leo's my OP infantry pair in the field. I don't want him just reinforcing his structure, so I went ahead and took him out, sent him home, and put my looks like Sunny and something else in the structure instead. And in the meanwhile, like this Attila Takeda is coming in on their Shrine of Life, and there's at this point there's no field reinforcements. They've got nobody marching here to reinforce the structure either. So we're going to have a really, really good trade on that structure rally right there.
You'll see a good movement from our top team over here, going to the Shrine of, or the Desert Altar, excuse me, to protect it and provide some coverage there. Again, you know, we kind of realized halfway through this match that we were going to have to play the structure game, and that the arc wasn't going to be something that we were going to push really hard for, specifically because of the success that we were seeing holding the structures and you know, keeping that offensive presence. So you'll see kind of a re-emphasis of us sending additional marches over to that desert altar to make sure that we hold it for some time. One thing you'll notice here at the 21-minute mark, or roughly 22-minute mark, is now we've increased our lead to over 1,000. So that points per minute is now at 1/3 of what the arc will yield for capturing it an additional time. So our objective right now is to make sure that we widen that gap as much as possible, and really reduce the opportunities for them to capture the arc. So making sure that we delay them capturing it as much as possible, creating pressure, doing what we can to take their outposts or take their forward structures that are easy to capture the arc with. Those are all going to be strategies that we employ right now to win the match.
Yeah. And so right now I'm just kind of focused on the Shrine of Life. Just seeing if this Attila Takeda is going to be able to take down this Charles. It is a Charles Constantine. They have gotten a counter rally on me at this point as well. So it's looking a little bleak for taking the structure this time, but nonetheless, there were 1 million troops in that Shrine of Life. We did a ton of damage. We had a little support. We had 2 or 3 marches come over and help on our side in the field. But at this point, they realized, all right, this might be an issue, and they were able to march over and looks like save the structure. And yeah, the rally just went down there. So let's see. We should get another rally from Nathus. Nope, I don't do it because my Ramesses is out and about. And there it is right there. So him and I are just back to back on that structure. Really puts a lot of pressure. He prefers archers, I believe, every single time. I don't think he launched another type of rally each time. But we really were just relentless on that Shrine of Life. And they cared a lot about it. They really wanted to defend that from the early game. And they kept trying. And I mean, we've had the Desert Altar now for many minutes. So again, you know, differences in strategy. You know, we play the game a little bit differently, but they really wanted to keep the Shrine of Life. It appears more than they wanted to keep the Desert Altar. And that's really what's playing out here.
And I think that there's again, one of those kind of common misconceptions, or maybe just a difference in strategy. So the Shrine of Life is going to provide you with a troop boost. So you're going to get, I believe, 5% health or 5% defense. I think it's health. Holding the Shrine of Life, however, it provides less points per minute. Could be wrong. I hope you don't quote me there. But I believe that it is less points per minute than the Desert Altar. So I think that that's really the strategy in terms of like why you take the Desert Altar as opposed to the Shrine of Life, and why you emphasize that one heavier. Not only just the location, but I think that kind of that multifaceted benefit of having the location, the pivot point, and also the additional points per minute. Not necessarily taking away a troop boost from the enemy, which is a huge benefit from taking over the Shrine of Life and Shrine of War from them. Not only getting it for yourself, but taking it away from the enemy. So it's a huge benefit in that respect. But from a points perspective, you yield more from the altar, I believe.
And so there I just did my little sneak attack on their obelisk, semi-Atil Takeda at it, which is going to work out well. We'll see it here on the screen in a second. And also you guys can see we've got a ton of field presence at the Shrine of Life as well. We still hold the Desert Altar. It's not flashing. Nothing's going on there. So I'm more concerned with this battle here at the Shrine of Life, where we have a ton of field presence. We've got a rally on the way with Ramesses YSG. And I'm looking like, okay, this is the first time we're going to take the Shrine of Life in the match. So I'm focused on this structure.
Let's see how this turns out.
I mean, they've got the right garrison commander. They're doing everything that they could be doing, but it's just not enough at a certain point. I think they're trying to take back the Desert Altar and this, and they're attacking our Shrine of War all at the same time, and they're probably spread a little too thin.
For sure. It's really like, it's crazy how the game has manifested in the last, roughly year. You went from a heavily offensive meta with the Attila Takeda and really no counters to it. I mean, you have the Charles Constantine that existed where you can get like a 1-to-1 trade, but you're never really getting like a very like a positive, like a really like dominant trade against Attila Takeda until you really utilize the YSS Theo. And even with YSS Theo, I mean, you can have mixed results, but I think the benefit of being able to use any troop type, kind of compensates for the additional damage you get from the Attila Takeda. So you shifted from the offensive meta to a defensive meta, and now we're someplace kind of in between, because we have a few people with the Zenobia and she's like, kind of the cream of the crop, but you honestly don't see a lot of that in these newer kingdoms. So it's something that I think people will have to adjust to, and the meta will be changing. But as it is right now, if you have those solid defensive pairs, the YSS Theo, Charles Constantine, you can at least kind of survive, especially in these arc circumstances where rallies aren't getting reinforced for 30 minutes or an hour.
Right. Let's see what we've got going on. Still battling at that Shrine of Life, and he's close to down. There's a counter rally on the Ramesses. We're swarming it with everything we have right there.
They're gonna go down. Yeah, there we go.
So finally, right? We're what? 17 minutes left in the match, and we've been rallying that nonstop the entire game. It's the first time it went down.
Here's the sneak attack. Attila Takeda at the obelisk. Always watch your obelisk.
Seriously. So all they had in here, and I opened Discord right now, and I'm just laughing with everybody because all they had was like 200,000 cav in here with Moto defending. It goes down like super easy. And then all of a sudden I've got, 600,000 troops in their obelisk with an Attila Takeda defending. It's not a position you want to be in with 16, 17 minutes left in the match. You just don't want to be there.
Yeah. And it's not, the threat of us porting over there and zeroing a bunch of their cities, that's not there. It's that they're losing the points per minute. and winning looks a lot bleaker now. Specifically because now they have to divert a lot of troops to the obelisk to try to retake that, as opposed to taking that attention and focusing it on upfield.
Yeah, and so stuff's kind of caving in for them now. I mean, we've got their Shrine of Life, we've got their obelisk. They just barely took back their desert altar. They just tried to take our Shrine of War and failed. We just took a whole bunch of the structures, a whole bunch of the field. And so right now it's looking pretty tough. And what you're going to see here soon is a massive movement from them into the center, into the arc, to try to get that last arc just as a last hurrah. Hail Mary play to see if maybe they can win the match. Because right now, I mean, right, we've got 15 minutes left and we're only up by 2,000.
Yeah, and you'll start seeing the higher point differential, because I believe that we won this match by about 10,000 points at the end. You know, and one thing that's critical and something that we haven't talked about at all, you know, we mentioned it a little bit in the beginning, but during this entire time, provisioning is a critical component. We have people that are going from node to node to node to node to node, filling up their provisioning score, and then they're going to return within the last 2 minutes of the match. And that's something that you know, all of your top teams are doing. It's kind of that unwritten rule, that unspoken strategy, that people are going to be, you know, doing that provisioning aspect and making sure that they're gathering the you know, camels and little things all across the map.
For sure. And I mean, I think it was 2 leagues ago. I think it was 2 ago where you and I were watching, and I think it was Gecko and Chisgol, and they were commentating on that. One of those, I think it was semifinal matches or whatnot, and the other team won literally in the last second by provisioning. And it's never a position you want to be in, but sometimes you can win with provisioning. So it's worth it to assign it to a couple people. I think we probably assigned it to 4 people for our match or something. I don't know exactly how many.
Yeah. I have no idea, and I think that it's really important to make sure that those people are, like, you know, they have the best gathering commanders, they have the best gathering gear, you know, making sure that they can you know, really maximize that position, and that they're paying attention. You know, if that's their role, that's the, you know, 3,000-4,000 points that you know, they're contributing to the team. So it's a huge role that I think a lot of teams overlook, because it's like, oh, who's gathering? You know, who wants to gather? I think that you're going to see a lot more of it now, that you've seen people have success and see matches sway because of it.
Right, exactly. So I'm talking on Discord. What's going on back on the screen here? We've got another rally, so it looks like they probably took their Shrine of Life back at this point. Oh, there we go. There's a fight at the Desert Altar. What's new? Oh, that's the one, I think, where they're going, like, all they had to do was fill the structure, and they're hitting us in the field nonstop. Yeah. Which, again, I mean, a little bit of it earlier too on the whatever it was for us, but you got to fill structures when it needs to be filled, and you know, that's something that most people are probably going to learn the hard way. But sometimes it's as simple as just jumping into the structure. You don't need to hit the march that's near the structure. You don't need to hit the rally. All you got to do is put your troops in the structure. It's an easy mistake to make, but it's clutch.
And not only that, but making sure that you have, like, the maximum amount of troops available in the structure is just as important. So a lot of things that you'll see, or things that you'll hear from leadership, is, hey, make sure you refresh your march, swap your troops, things like that. What they're talking about is, let's say you have a full march sitting outside, and it's, you know, it may be in combat, it may not be in combat, you know, whatever it's doing is irrelevant. And then you have that rally getting, or that structure getting rallied. And let's say the march that's in there is at half strength. What they're talking about is removing the march in the structure and putting your march that's sitting outside in, so you can benefit from the additional troops, and give yourself some additional time, you know, with that rally and taking it down. Give yourself or your teammates some additional time to get in there to reinforce as well. So that's what they're talking about in terms of swapping your march or refreshing your troops.
Yep. Yep. So here, I don't know what got into me, but I decided to launch a Guan Leo rally. It gets swarmed basically the entire way. No specials firing off, nothing going on. I've got a counter rally incoming. Um, I don't know. Should have canceled this for sure and just fought in the field or just let him return. I don't. So, my rally gets there half or less health, and nothing really happens with it at all. This was probably my biggest mistake in the match of letting this one actually go. Guan Leo's going to be really good when he doesn't get swarmed on the way. He's going to be really good on a kind of 1v1 kind of thing, which I guess goes for any rally at the end of the day, but he doesn't really do, the circle AoE. He doesn't get an attack bonus for being attacked by multiple opponents at one time. What I'm talking about there is Atoll Takeda and YSG. So letting that one go was just not worth it. Should have canceled that one, but figured, what the heck, let's let this hit and I'll get another rally on it ASAP. And so there's some middle fighting going on here. As you can see, they've got a ton of players in the middle here.
Yep, and they're owning the middle easily. We have troops coming up from both sides trying to look at kind of that sandwich effect. Having one of our teams hit from the bottom, one of our teams hit from the top. But yeah, they did an extremely good job of defending the middle, making sure that they got the Ark of Osiris. But as you guys can kind of see, and you'll see in the next couple of minutes and the outcome of the match, the Ark isn't the end all be all. There's ways to counteract the Ark. And there's different strategies that you can utilize that can create enough separation that it doesn't matter how many arcs that they get. If they're not maintaining that structure occupation score, if they're not doing the provisioning and gathering resources effectively, you're not going to be successful in the end.
For sure. And I remember feeling a little worried about that because there was no way we were going to penetrate that middle. They were getting that arc no matter what. But then, like you said, yeah, I mean, our points per minute continues to grow, and then our provisioning starts to come in as well. But I remember going to the middle right there and being like, we're not getting that arc. There's no way. They have everybody on their team in the middle. So.
Yeah, and they did an extremely good job mobilizing and redirecting their focus. I think one of the kind of critical opportunity costs with that strategy is relieving the support on your structures, your side structures. So in this case, the Desert Altar and Shrine of Life. I think in those situations, it really hurts you, especially when you've been down on occupation score for a majority of the match. I think it really hurts you in that regard, trying to be able to pivot from, go from the arc to go back to the structures. There's just too much travel time, especially with less than 10 minutes left in the match. You'll see them, the giant grouping of people come around and actually take our Shrine of War at the bottom there. I believe that they do that at the right at the end here. But it makes no difference because of the timing, and then we're able to take it back almost immediately after, if I remember correctly.
Yep, for sure. And I think that's a big reason. Like you guys have seen me take my screen to the middle, I don't know, maybe twice in this match. Just because my job is so specific to not the middle and the structures on the far top side. That's really where my focus is. And there's a team, I think we're split up into teams of 4 or 5, where you're seeing the same people in my rallies, you're seeing the same people join my rallies, you're seeing the same names that are defending structures, the same names that are in the field, kind of escorting or helping out around the structure. We're really disciplined in the sense that we don't think too much about the middle if it's not our job, which is what helps us actually hold the structures, take structures and whatnot. They look like on their end, they're doing more of a on the fly kind of, here's where people are needed. This is what, we're going to do. It's on the fly, which is tough to take that strategy up against a kingdom or an alliance that everybody knows their exact role throughout the match. They're really good at getting a bunch of people to the middle when they need them to and want them to, but having that balanced approach along the structures to get the points per minute just it's not really working for them in this match, which is eventually why we're at 5K now, 5.5K now, which I think was the difference maker in this one is we came in with extreme structure and they were kind of, we need you guys here now, there now. And we took full advantage of that by being so organized.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what you'll see kind of in the closing minutes of the match, a lot of people are going to be focused specifically on getting their gatherers in, making sure that structures are reinforced. Part of it is wanting to maintain that points per minute for our team. However, I don't know how many mathematicians are watching, but our points difference is pretty sound right now. Really, what we don't want to do is essentially just lose it and lose control of the structure. Give them any opportunities here at the end to couple the arc that they just captured. You'll see there at the top, and any point or any structure takeover. So, really trying to make sure that we take that strong defensive approach now. We don't necessarily need to get any more points. We don't need to take any offensive, apply any offensive pressure. We really just can't lose any of our structures.
And I mean, this is chaos at the desert. I don't even know what's going on there right now.
Yeah, this is they're going really hard to take it back right now. But at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily matter how many times that they go after this and whatnot. At this point in the match, we have such a high point differential. They just captured the last arc, and we still have that 4,000, roughly 4,000 point lead.
For sure. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes left here in the match. Looks like they finally got that structure back. I'm going to go up here and see what's good. We've got a rally incoming on their Shrine of Life. They've got nobody there. So, they did play a pretty good match. I mean, honestly, they appeared to be kind of disorganized and definitely had different priorities than us. But at this point in the match, there's only a 3,500 point, 3,000 point difference, basically. They played a pretty good match, and they were definitely pretty good opponents. I think we just executed our plan so well that it was really tough for them to get an advantage throughout the whole match.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and really, making sure that you apply that offensive pressure, consistently. I feel like is a winning move in Arc these days. Being on the defensive end, even though we have kind of that defensive meta right now, it doesn't yield you that kind of highly productive positioning that allows you to not only take structures, take the arc, capitalize on points.
Yep, definitely. And yeah, I mean, with commanders is one thing, but like positioning is another as well. In Ark of Osiris, obviously all the structures are in exact position. But we learned the hard way in our last KVK how important positioning was in terms of like our enemy getting flags out there faster than us or whatnot. So yeah, I mean, having the right commanders is half the battle for sure, but you got to make sure that you're also putting yourself in the right position throughout the match as well.
That rally filled up quick.
Yeah, did we launch any city rallies here?
I don't think we did any city. Yeah, I don't think we did any cities at the end there.
Sometimes if we're winning by a bit and we know that there's no way to lose. I think at this point we thought no, because there's no arc. So I don't know. I think at this point
So here, that was a great little bit that showed the points per minute, and that we had 590 points per minute, as opposed to, I believe they had like 340 or 360. That just shows you just quick multiplication. You hold it for 10 minutes, you get an extra 200 points per minute. That's 2,000 points right there. So, it's not necessarily something that you have to hold for the entire match. It's not like you have to hold it from minute 1 to minute 60 for it to make a significant difference.
Yep. And so this one I actually had a counter rally going on. We just didn't want any last minute surprises, right? So we're not giving up, we're not done. There's no more arcs that are going to happen, but we definitely don't want them to take any of our structures at this point, and we're going to continue to rally theirs as well. Even with 90-ish seconds left in the match, we're still all on. Discord's still going wild, and we're making sure that we secure this win. Looks like provisionings are still coming in as well. I'll have the full score up here at the end of the match. But I think we did pretty good. I want to say we had like 7,000 provisioning score or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. And yeah, you'll see scores start jumping here soon, because I believe that we get another couple thousand, before the end of this. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things that, like I said, a lot of people don't talk about it. It's not like it's cliche or anything, but there's not any glory in farming, except when it wins the match. So
And yeah, it's wild when it does, but you could have one guy that was out there in the back just farming the whole time, and he marches back with 10 seconds left and he puts up 5K in points just in provisions, and it's a part of the game, right? So we all kind of have to, like Diesel said earlier, you got to pay attention to each part of Ark of Osiris, because you can't fully ignore one, because it'll bite you and you'll lose a match because of that eventually.
Exactly. So as we go into the last few seconds of this match, you kind of see how the structure game has really benefited us here. We don't go with one set strategy every time. We kind of look at our opponent and try to make the best determination with not only the tools that we have available that specific week, but also the people that we're going against. So we really hope that you learned a lot from this. There's a lot of different strategies that people employ to Ark of Osiris. Really want to learn as much as we possibly can and teach as much as we possibly can to the rock community.
Yep. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Just wanted to give you a little insight to how we play Ark of Osiris. Again, if you like videos about Rise of Kingdoms and Ark of Osiris and want to get better and get your alliance winning more Ark of Osiris matches, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. Everybody have a good one. Thanks again for chiming in.